Today, the Federal Reserve Chair testifying before Congress. What did he say about inflation, and how soon will the Fed tighten monetary policy? Former students suing top American schools for alleged antitrust violations. What do they say the schools colluded on, and what do they want? And the Biden administration planning to block oil and gas leases in Alaska. We hear from different sides of the issue. That and much more coming up on NTD Business. Good evening and great to have you with us. I'm Evelyn Lee in for Paul. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell faced the Senate Banking Committee today. He's looking to serve another 4 years in his role. Inflation was a focus during the hearing. Powell says he now thinks inflation will ease by the middle of this year, but that the Fed stands ready to ensure that high inflation does not become, quote, entrenched.
Meanwhile, inflation is running very well, very far above our target. And what that's telling us is that the economy no longer needs or wants the very highly accommodative policies that we've had in place to deal with the pandemic and the aftermath.
Powell said no decision had been made about normalizing policy, but that it was likely the Fed would decide to let the balance sheet shrink sooner and faster than it did following the 2007 to 2009 recession.
The economy is in a completely different place than it was when we ended asset purchases the last time. So the period of time between stopping purchases and beginning runoff will be shorter. And also the balance sheet's much bigger, and so the runoff can be faster.
The committee hearing is a first step in the Fed chair's confirmation process. Powell is expected to be confirmed by the full Senate to a new 4-year term. Lael Brainerd, currently a Fed governor, will be questioned by the same panel on Thursday, also for a 4-year term, as Fed vice chair. Inflation fears among America's small business owners have risen to their highest level in 4 decades. That's according to the latest survey from the National Federation of Independent Business, or Nfib. It shows that 22% of small business owners say inflation is their single biggest operational concern. That's the highest reading since 1981. A year ago, just 1% of owners said inflation was their chief worry. Consumer price inflation hit 6.8% in the year through November, the fastest pace in 39 years. And that pace likely picked up in December when the Labor Department releases its data tomorrow. Economists predict it will show inflation running at 7% or higher. Joining me now is Bill Dunkelberg. He's the chief economist at Nfib. It's great to have you with us, Bill.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Looking at the Nfib report this month, you can see that small businesses are slightly more optimistic now. But tell me, is this a significant change?
No, the index only went up by 0.5 point, which, in surveying parlance, that would not be a statistically significant change. It's stuck around 98, 99, which, by the way, is the 49-year average. That's how long I've been doing this thing. We've got record high percentages of owners with job openings, trying to hire, trying to get inventories, buy inventories, doing all those good things that would help the economy and improve employment. But when we ask them about, how things look by the end of the year, the net percent, meaning we subtracted off the good from the bad, the net percent expecting the economy to be better is minus 34%. So 34 percentage points more of the owners think the economy is going to be worse than think it's going to be better. And that's not good. And that kind of correlates with their very low capital spending, which is a long-term investment, and their plans to make capital spending outlays. So it's a very bifurcated kind of 98, where we've got some really high numbers and some really low numbers, and the average is average.
And there's still one main concern, inflation, I take it. So what are the challenges that small businesses face on that front?
They're making money, but of course, on the flip side, expenses are going up. So we're having record numbers of firms who are reporting that they're raising worker compensation, and of course a matching number saying that they're raising their selling prices to pass out that on along. So that's one thing. It really helps revenue, but of course other expenses are going to keep going up, like rent and supplies and et cetera. So it's right now we're in a race, and I think probably inflation on the cost side is going to catch up with any benefits we have from higher selling prices. And of course, that's not the best news for profits, to say the least.
Following the Fed chair's hearing today, Powell said that they're going to tighten monetary policy faster. Now, how will that play out for small businesses?
Yes, well, the Fed is behind the curve on getting that job done. Tightening monetary policy faster really means to slow down. So monetary policy still remains very stimulative, even though we've got prices rising like crazy, the highest since we've seen in 30 years. So the Fed does need to tighten up. That means it needs to stop buying treasuries in the market. That reducing the supply of treasuries will mean that the interest rate on them goes up, which it already is. It's already headed toward 2. But keep in mind that last time we had an inflation like this 30 years ago, the prime rate was 21% compared to 3.5% today. So there's a long way that the Fed might go to try to shut inflation down. And of course, the sad news is the way it does that is it slows the economy down, shuts spending down so that firms can't raise prices.
I think we're all hoping for the best here, but thank you very much for coming on, Bill. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
And United Airlines is reducing its flight schedule as it deals with COVID-related staffing shortages. In a company-wide memo, United CEO Scott Kirby said nearly 3,000 employees currently have the virus. That's about 4% of United's 85,000 workers. But Kirby says none of the company's vaccinated workers are hospitalized. Across the U.S., thousands of flights have been canceled in recent weeks because of a spike in cases due to the Omicron variant. It's unclear what the new reduced schedule for United will look like. A growing list of companies are revamping reopening plans as Omicron surges. Facebook parent Meta has delayed its U.S. office reopening, and it'll also mandate booster shots for those returning to office. Meta pushed the office reopening date to the end of March from the earlier plan of January 31st. Workers can choose to work remotely, return to the office, or go hybrid. But if they choose to go to the office, they'll have to show proof of their booster shots. And 16 top American universities, including Yale, Georgetown, and Northwestern, are being sued for alleged antitrust violations. 5 former students accuse the schools of illegal price fixing and colluding to limit student financial aid. Schools are allowed to work together on formulas to calculate financial need, but that's only if they don't consider financial need in their admission decisions. The suit alleges that 9 of the schools do consider financial circumstances when deciding admissions. So it argues that none of the schools should be able to collaborate on their financial aid practices. The suit is seeking damages and class action status for students who attended the schools between 2003 and the present. The Wall Street Journal first reported the news. And the Biden administration is reversing another Trump-era effort, with plans to block oil and gas leases in Alaska's North Slope. Alaska's oil has long been a subject of debate for economists and environmentalists. NTD's Chen Yun has more.
The Department of the Interior announced that it plans to place restrictions on oil drilling in Alaska. The move will restrict oil and gas leases in 11 million acres in Alaska's North Slope. Layla Hughes is an attorney at Earth Justice, a nonprofit that litigates environmental issues. Her organization says Biden isn't restricting enough.
What the administration is doing is it's going back to a nearly 10-year-old management plan, which still leaves half of the reserve open to oil and gas development. And we know that the science says we don't actually need any new leasing. Instead, we need to stop leasing.
Earth Justice had previously filed a lawsuit challenging Trump's efforts to increase drilling in Alaska's National Petroleum Reserve. The federal government set this area aside for oil and gas development back in the 1920s.
It's a strange paradox that the administration is, on the one hand, trying to boost consumption with increased government spending, which is part of the factor that's driving up prices right now. And then at the same time, they're trying to restrict production.
Brent Bennett is a policy director at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. He says restricting production during rising demand will result in higher prices as well as increased foreign production.
You might see more production in the Russian Arctic instead of the U.S. Arctic. If we don't produce our Arctic resources, that's a likely outcome.
Alaska's economy is tied heavily to its oil industry. Chenny Wu, NTD News.
And Tesla has signed a landmark deal to source nickel from the United States. Nickel producer Talon Metals is based in Minnesota. It says it'll supply Tesla with 165 million pounds of nickel from its upcoming new mine. The metal is a crucial part of electric vehicle batteries, and Tesla has been getting it overseas. Nickel is limited in North America, and prices have gone up around 85% in the last few years. Stock indexes gained ground today with NASDAQ leading the advance. The Dow rose 183 points or 0.5%. The S&P 500 gained 43 points or 0.9%, while the NASDAQ gained 211 points or 1.4%. And now, with all cryptocurrencies totaling $2 trillion worldwide, more people might want a piece of the action. Instead of offering your usual travel and cashback rewards, some credit card companies are offering crypto rewards. NTD's Phil Zhou has the details.
What are crypto credit cards and how do they work?
We're really talking exclusively about rewards.
These are just ordinary credit cards, but the rewards are paid in cryptos instead of dollars.
But how each card awards the cryptocurrency may be different. The Gemini credit card deposits crypto directly into your crypto account after each swipe, so you don't have to wait over a month. You can choose Bitcoin, Ether, and over 40 different coins available on the Gemini exchange.
I like the concept of crypto rewards credit cards. It's not for everybody getting into the game. If you're somebody that you've never bought crypto before, you don't know how to do it, you're worried about the transaction fees, this actually could be a really low-risk way.
There are also crypto debit cards from companies like Coinbase and Crypto.com.
The big issue for people is when they have a lot of cryptos but not a lot of cash.
That's when you can convert your crypto into US dollars and spend it via the debit card.
Be warned, every transaction counts as a sale of crypto, so you may have to work it out on your tax at the end of the year. Because in the US, every crypto sale is a taxable event.
Getting one or not, one thing is for sure. Watch out for credit card debt.
I don't keep a balance. Never let your credit card rack up. I let that happen once, killed it, and I've kept it dead ever since. It's there for convenience, but I can restrain myself.
It's not so much of a spending tool, but I do think that it could be a wealth builder for some people. And I think credit card rewards could be a viable introduction into this concept.
Phil Zhou, NTD News.
The Beijing Winter Olympics is just around the corner, and China is rolling out its digital yuan to athletes and visitors. It's the first big test of how the virtual currency will do with foreigners. The Bank of China says users can download an app, get a physical card, or convert foreign banknotes into digital yuan at self-service machines. Some experts warn Beijing's push for wider use of digital yuan has a bigger goal: to replace the US dollar as the dominating international currency. And China's digital yuan has another catch. It's controlled by China's state-owned central bank, which means the Chinese government can track every transaction completed in this currency. Several US lawmakers have been voicing concerns. They're calling on the US Olympic Committee to ban American athletes from using the digital yuan at the Winter Olympics. And China has spent billions of dollars trying to catch up to the world's most advanced chip makers. But recently, some Chinese startups announced failure. NTD's Faye Quarter takes a look at possible reasons they aren't succeeding.
China's dream of competing with chip makers TSMC and Samsung has failed recently. Officials injected hundreds of millions of dollars to support two semiconductor projects in Wuhan and Jinan, but neither ever commercially built any chips.
If we say oil is the industrial blood of a country, chips are the industrial brains. So the chip manufacturing technologies represent country's overall scientific and technological strength.
China affairs analyst Yuan says making more semiconductors is a vital priority for China because China has the greatest chip demand in the world.
China now makes nearly 1.2 billion mobile phones and 350 million computers a year, which drives 1/3 of the global demand for semiconductors. But China's self-sufficiency rate from domestic chips is only less than 30%. It especially lacks high-end chips.
But based on company statements and local government documents, over the past 3 years, at least 6 chip-building projects in China, including the ones in Wuhan and Jinan, have failed. What's holding them back? Tong says one reason is that China's industrial base is weak and lacks high-end chip-making experts.
The CCP's economic model for many years has always been seeking quick success and instant benefits. With semiconductors, it requires a long-term and large investment. The CCP did not take it seriously in the early stage. Later, the CCP realized the importance of it and started to try to catch up in a very short time. But without a sound foundation, it's like building a high-rise building on the sand.
He says the second reason is China's political and economic system, which doesn't foster an innovative environment.
In China, all such high-level strategic projects get state capital investments, which leads to political officials guiding science development, amateurs leading professionals. The negative result is that China cannot effectively innovate.
Tong says chip development is tied to government performance. Therefore, officials are afraid of or even stop innovation when making decisions, because innovation contains risk and responsibility. In contrast, low-risk projects are encouraged eventually, and the whole situation curbs innovation. Faye Quarter, NTD News.
And coming up next, Bank of America reducing its overdraft fees. What's it trying to get ahead of, and what is it getting rid of altogether? And a UK supermarket chain removing use-by dates from milk and replacing it with something else. Why the change? That and more coming up on NTD Business.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but millions of you out there. Before all this started, I had already written in my memoir, I dedicate this book to anyone that's looking for hope. Well, right now, we're all looking for hope. I believe that my story is going to bring inspiration and hope to everyone. By the time you're done reading my book, you will believe that with God, all things are possible. To thank you all for your support, I'm offering some of my best prices ever on MyPillow products, including this exclusive bundle. You get my book and these 5 MyPillows. They all have beautiful scenes and verses from the Bible, such as Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. This 6-pack bundle is regularly $219. Now it's just $99.98 and free shipping with your promo code. Go to mypillow.com and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below. Thank you and God bless.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
The 2022 NTD 8th International Chinese Vocal Competition will be held at the Merkin Hall of Kaufman Music Center in New York City. The competition is honored to have specially invited vocalists with the world-renowned Shen Yun Performing Arts to serve on its panel of judges. The gold award is $10,000. The 2022 8th International Chinese Vocal Competition. For more information, please visit vocal.ntdtv.com.
Bank of America announced today that it's reducing its overdraft fees this spring. Starting in May, if you overdraw your account, it'll charge you $10 instead of $35. And starting next month, the bank says it will no longer charge for insufficient funds. Banks are facing growing pressure from lawmakers and regulators over the fees. The U.S. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau estimates that banks made $69 billion from such fees in the third quarter of last year. And the agency is exploring new guidance to banks to curb these fees. Bank of America may be trying to get ahead of the agency's move. It says its changes will cut what it makes from overdraft fees by 97% compared to 2009 levels. If your New Year's resolution is to get your finances in top shape, one financial expert shares 5 money moves you should make right now to set yourself up for success. Let's take a look.
New year, new you. While many made New Year's resolutions to improve their health and wellness, financial experts say getting your finances in top shape should also be a priority this 2022.
It's so important to focus on financial well-being, especially at the beginning of the year, because really you want to set yourself up for success.
Personal finance coach Julie Alma Taveras recommends these 5 money moves. First, she says look back at last year and make a budget for this year. Decide how much you'll spend and save and figure out what needs to get cut.
You want to pull out the things that you know maybe were just one-time things, and also maybe some things that were recurring, like maybe ordering out too much or shopping a little bit too much that you could definitely cut back on.
The second move is to start investing. Figure out what you'll set aside for your retirement and how much you can invest in other assets like real estate. The third move, jumpstart your career. Tavera says this may be the perfect time to seek new opportunities like a new job that pays better.
A lot of times when you move to a different company, you can oftentimes get up to 30% raise. And this past year, I've seen people get even 50% raise, which seems kind of crazy, but it is possible. And it's kind of the environment that we're in right now.
Next, check your credit report. Look for potential errors and get them removed. Taveras also recommends requesting an interest rate decrease on your credit cards. And finally, eliminate debt. Create a debt payment plan so it doesn't feel so overwhelming.
The U.S. Mint has started rolling out new quarters featuring late American author Maya Angelou. The prolific writer was known for her lyrical prose and regal speaking voice. Now, she's the first Black woman to appear on the coin. Angelou rose to international prominence after the publication of her groundbreaking autobiography. It's called I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. It describes her experience growing up in the segregated South. Angelou died in 2014 at age 86. The coin is part of the American Women Quarters program. It also includes the first Chinese-American Hollywood film star Anna May Wong. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said that each time the U.S. redesigns its currency, it has a chance to say something about what the country values and how it has progressed. And British supermarket Morrisons will remove use-by dates from milk packaging at the end of January. It told The Guardian it's trying to cut down on food waste. Instead, it will place best before dates on 90% of its brand name milk. Morrisons is asking customers to use a simple sniff test to tell if the milk is good or not. Food waste nonprofit RAP said Morrisons is the first supermarket in Britain to announce the move. RAP also says the UK wastes about 360,000 tons of milk per year. That's worth more than $200 million, making it the third most wasted food in the UK after potatoes and bread. And for many Australian farmers, a rise in foreign ownership has reduced the prospect of owning their own farmland to a mere dream. But now, a new business model in one region is giving locals a fresh opportunity to buy back family land. NTD's Chen Yun has more.
Lush and fertile, these pastures in the northwest of Tasmania have attracted investors from around the world, but they're largely under the control of corporate and foreign entities. For young Tasmanian farmers, having their own land seems a distant dream.
It takes away the opportunity of the dream of owning your farm, because they get bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, you're talking 1,800 cows, 1,000 cow farms. They come with a big price tag.
Now, one special company is making that dream a reality. Known as Circular Head Farms, it raises funds from local property investors and seeks out family farmers to run them.
Ultimately, they can start with very little and over time build up into cow ownership, and even ultimately, our goal is to see them start to come into ownership of the farm.
In over 7 years, Circular Head Farms has grown into a huge network with 11 dairy farms, nearly 10,000 acres of farmland, and 8,500 milking cows.
I just want to see us as a community reap the rewards. You know, wealth's created owning the farm. Wealth's not created working on the farm. If you want to create wealth for your community, then you own it.
The company says it has no objections to foreign ownership, but today most of his customers are locals, as foreign buyers are facing hurdles.
Having to wait for that Foreign Investment Review Board approval has really pushed them out of the marketplace to a large extent. Because the market's strong, properties are selling more quickly than they have done in the past.
Some farmers also point out the difference between the families that came from elsewhere and the large corporate groups from overseas. Gennaro is a cheesemaker, originally from Venezuela.
We may not be born here, but we feel like we're now part of this community. If we buy a block of land or we buy cattle and things like that, all that money will stay here, all that money will be invested here.
For him and many other businesses in town, what's really important is plowing profits back into the community.
And that's the latest business updates for today. You can catch NTD Evening News with Stephania Cox at 6:30 p.m. Eastern for NTD Business. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.